Good morning. I am somewhere in the northern part of India and I have been traveling for 1 week and I will also travel another 1 week. So this morning, as I share with you our Bible study from 2nd Corinthians, I also want to share some of my observation, my experience in the North India. I see that spirituality among the new converts, new believers, is very vibrant in the northern part of India and also, as I have observed, in the southern part of India. And probably one of the reason is because many of them come from religious background. They already have very civilized culture and very much developed religion. The second thing, because they all have in some way experienced the miracles. I met someone who had a cancer in the neck, and after all their effort, spending so much money, they were hopeless. And then I met another person, a small child who had 2 holes in the heart. They were like hopeless. They returned from Delhi. I met another person who had a epileptic problem. But because they came to Jesus and when somebody prayed for them, they experienced miraculous healing. So I see they have experienced the touch of God personally, and spirituality is vibrant. It has many positive side, but on the other hand, there are negative side of it. And so many times when they come to the church, when preaching is done, I notice that just after preaching, most of these believers, they don't just leave the church. Like in most churches, at the end of the service, they receive the word of God and they have a benediction prayer and they leave the church. But here in the North India and South India, they don't leave it immediately. They stay back. They want to meet the preacher, the man of God. They will bring their children, they will bring their wives, they will bring their ailing old parents, they will bring themselves, and they will request the preacher to lay their hands on their heads. They will receive their prayers. They want the preacher to bless them. They will touch the feet of the preacher. And then some of them, they will leave behind their sacrificial money, their gifts and donations in the hand of the preacher or at the feet of the preacher. Tremendous amount of devotion. I see the love and adoration and appreciation for the preacher and the leader is great. It has to do because of their cultural background where they come from. So there are good side of it, positive side of it, that they look up to the preacher and the man of God with great respect. But on the other hand, there is a downside of it, that sometimes, they may look to the person, and the person who is just as frail as a human being, sinner, as the preachers are and the leaders are, they may undergo frustration because not all are spiritually mature. And in the process, it becomes much more a big responsibility for a leader to be careful how to teach them, how to help them to look up to God. Yes, they must enjoy the respect. At the same time, they must direct them to have faith in God more than the preacher and more than the leader. Unfortunately, there are some leaders, they can exploit this kind of a devotion. And that's how there is sometimes hero worship, and sometimes people who run the ministry, personal enterprise and family enterprise. And people never question them because they are representative of God. They are men and women of God. And that's my observation, that so much to be done here in the North India and South India, where there is a large number of house church planting taking place. So many people are coming to know the Lord, but they need to be directed in a right way. They need to be mentored, discipled. The church must teach them where they should put their faith. And church also must make the leaders more responsible, that they should leave behind a good model, good example, selfless life, not self-centered, self-promoting ministries. I want to remind you again the We series from 2 Corinthians chapter 2:12 to 5:17, which Paul was trying to say who we are and what we are in Jesus. But this is very appropriate for me this morning to remind us in chapter 4, 2 Corinthians chapter 4, where he says, "For we do not preach ourselves, but Jesus Christ as Lord, and ourselves as your servant for Jesus' sake." It's so important for the leaders in the North India and the South India to tell them that we are only servants of Jesus Christ. And we are servants of the church. And then verse 7, Paul says, we are only jars of clay. We are brittle and fragile. We are just valueless like any other person. The only what makes us difference is the treasure in these jars of clay. And that treasure could be in anybody. So that's why I was trying to say to some of them that you come to me for prayer. I know the prayer of the righteous is upright and prayer of the righteous will be heard. But have you ever thought that your prayer, if you live righteous, if you love the Lord with all your heart, even your prayer is much more powerful than my prayer. So yes, I will pray, but I want you to also learn to pray for yourself, and Jesus will answer your prayer too. So it's so important that we help them to focus to Jesus. Paul says in verse 10, we always carry around in our body the death of Jesus, so that the life of Jesus may also be revealed in our body. Let Jesus be revealed through the life of the preacher, through the life of the leaders. Let leaders point everybody to Jesus. May God help you. If you're listening to me, then probably you will understand how important this responsibility is ours as a leader to direct these young believers and young devotees to the right way, right theology, right doxology, right behavior, right ethics, right devotion. And all can be drawn from the teachings of the Word of God. May God bless you today. May you have a wonderful day. Pray for me as I continue to travel in this region. Blessings.